Well, you will, of course, get full coverage on the noon news and 6 o'clock tonight about what's happening down at the site. You know, one of the problems with television is that we're part of the problem. You know, we got to be there. But when we're there, there's a kind of implied build-up. You know, people got to do their shtick for television. It's unfortunate, but quite unavoidable, I'm afraid, in the circumstances. Because if we're not there with cameras, we're like reporters without pencils or recorders, and we must be there. So let's get the latest from the site. I'm waiting for some videotape coverage of the situation, but it's now 10:50. And as I stressed this morning, the Labour Board has made it perfectly clear that pickets blocking the entrance have been defying the cease and desist order for something like 2 weeks. Cease and desist order from the Labour Board. And if pickets are there after 10 o'clock today, the LRB will file that with the BC Supreme Court. And anyone disobeying it, and God knows there's enough evidence of it, because already there's a potential contempt reducing, when the order was given, reducing the pickets to 12 on each gateway. Anyone committing contempt can go to the bucket. I can think of cases in the past, Lencut Electric, where union officials went to jail. There was another one, an IWA one, some years ago. So while we're waiting for the videotape, here is the intrepid Schneider. What's the score now, Schneider?
Jack, you want me to scoop Margot's piece and tell you what Gautier said, or should we wait for that?
I'll wait for that. Just tell me how many people... Well, you tell me what Gautier said, and we'll see if you've got it right when we look at the ENG.
This is a test, is it?
Yeah, a test.
It sounds like basically what Gautier is saying, that the situation is out of control right now. It's not in his hands. The resolve of his members is such that they're willing to go to jail, and they'll stay on the line regardless of any decision that comes out.
You're suggesting that he's saying that he can no longer control the people down there.
That seems to be it, Jack.
Well,
the crowd has swollen right now. I would guess that it's inching upwards of 1,000 people out here. It's just a madhouse trying to get around here.
Unless I'm crazy, Gautier's been down there for a couple of days or a couple of weeks saying, now we won't go away.
It looks like they're here for the long haul, Jack. They're camped out. The Executive Council is camped out in a warehouse right across the street right now.
What will probably happen is that, first of all, it will be filed with the Supreme Court, perhaps this afternoon, and then who will take the action on it? I suppose Kirchhoff will take the action for contempt, or the Labour Board itself might recognize the action for contempt and take action itself. No, the party must go to the Supreme Court, as I understand it.
That's my understanding, too. There may be a problem of getting evidence. Kirchhoff may be forced to actually bring equipment down here and demonstrate that he cannot get through.
No, the cease and desist order has been to keep the pickets to 12, but once it's 12 on each gate, but once it's filed with the Supreme Court, and don't forget the LRB has made it perfectly clear that Kirchhoff's operation is perfectly legal, that he is not indulging in any kind of lockout of Building Trades Council, that he got the contract by arbitration between he and Penny Farthing fair and square, and that he has the contract, and that he has said, despite the efforts made, that he will not be bought out of his $16 million bid. Now hold on while I look at the ENG directly from the site, and all being well, you can hear it on the line. Mark Schneider, here we go, 3 seconds from now.
To that risk.
I don't think that you can stop these members right now. They're mad, they're frustrated about what's happened, they're frustrated about what's happened down at that site, and I don't think, I don't know what will turn those people off at this point in time.
Are you saying that maybe it's out of your hands?
No, I'm not saying it's out of our hands. I'm simply saying that anybody to try to persuade those people to come away from there right now is going to have a difficult time. Sometimes there's a position arrived at where, you know, you just have to take a stand. People know that. They realize that. They are law-abiding citizens. They don't want any particular problems. Just the same as any other citizens, but there comes a time when they're going to make a stand, and I think right now that's what they're doing.
Are you saying the laws are bad and therefore it's all right to break them?
Well, I'm not saying the laws are bad. I'm simply saying that these people have made a determination individually that they're going to take a stand. They're in a desperate position. You know, they've been unemployed so long, and they see this happening, and they see that down the road, if they don't take a stand, then, you know, it's just going to become worse.
But don't you think some of the public...
I gotta go now.
Okay.
You're pushing it too hard.
You'll notice Mr. Gautier did not say that these people are out of control. He says it's not out of his hands, but he goes a little bit sideways and said, these people, presumably he's talking about members of the Building Trades Council with whom he's been conferencing for the past couple of weeks, have made a determination that they're going to take a stand, but he did not say they are out of control. It would be very difficult for Mr. Gautier to say they're out of control. He just doesn't know what influence will happen to enable these people to go away quietly, but he's saying quite clearly that they're not out of his hands, not yet a while. It's what's to be expected. What really upset me the other day was after I had Penny Farthing, Stevenson on, and Gautier on, and Bennett had made that statement that BC is an open site. It was immediately turned into a great massive conspiracy by Bennett to smash the building trades unions. That's hardly a justifiable extension of what's been happening up to now. Bennett hasn't brought in his amendments to Labour Code, but the way it's going now, he could bring in almost any amendment to Labour Code and get it passed with the approval of many people in British Columbia. But that's not what we want. We want a sane and rational accommodation once the law is obeyed at the penny farthing site, once it's filed with the Supreme Court, because we cannot afford in British Columbia either violence, the police standing by watching tires being slashed. They will presumably get the marching orders, the police will, their orders sometime today. Phone calls after the break. This is one case where I'm not coming in the morning and trying to make a molehill into a mountain. I'm trying to reduce a mountain back to a molehill. Talking about this caper. Where am I going? Go ahead, please.
When you spoke to Mr. Stevenson some time ago, he said he had 40% interest in penny farthing. Was that correct?
Correct.
Well, then what would be the point of he submitting a bid for the contract with Stevenson if he had 40% interest in penny farthing?
His colleagues have the controlling interest. Mr. Hepworth has an interest, and I believe somebody else. I'm not quite sure of the corporate structure. Stevenson's line to me is that he wanted that contract and fought desperately to get it to keep Stevenson Construction alive and healthy.
Well, Stevenson now has about 8 or 10 projects going and flourishing. So he couldn't very well be that interested in that particular project because he's sitting with 40% interest in the project as it stands.
Oh, yeah, he's got 40% in the penny farthing construction, but he wanted it for Stevenson Construction.
Sure, but you have to take that with a grain of salt.
Well, sure. I mean, he might well be speaking out of each side of his mouth, but that's not relevant as of now because the Labour Board has ruled. And the BC Central Credit Union explained that an arbitrator decided when they came to a dispute, BC Central wanted union, penny farthing didn't by 60%, went to arbitration, and the arbitrator gave it to Kirchhoff.
Oh, sure, but
so
I just want to point out that he couldn't be too excited over the losing of the contract because he's getting 40% with no real
that's right.
direct cost.
No, that's a good, valid observation, but I'm more concerned with about what happens now. I mean, Gautier is screaming, ranting, and raving or shouting about the whole thing because of the fact that he's got 60% unemployed.
Well, Bennett can listen to you and do exactly what you suggested.
Well,
open up the Expo. Go ahead.
Make Expo a union site.
That's a simple way to resolve it.
Leave BC Place an open site, and I veritably believe that the Expo Board, bar one, wants a union site. And believe you me, so do the big CLRA boys, but what they also want is a reduction of the gold bricking, which is a better word than feather bedding, of the building trades unions.
And everybody saves face.
And while I'm on that subject, maybe what the building trades have got to do is set up a separate contract for apartment blocks and smaller projects. After all, the penny farthing thing's only a tiddly project of $16 million.
I know, but what the union sees is a stepping stone.
It sees, because of the economic climate, the union will not concede that there is any time at all by which they should reduce or simplify their gold bricking and give the union contractors a better chance to vote or to bid against the non-union boys who are appearing now in considerable numbers.
Yeah, Mr. Bennett can resolve it very easily as you suggested.
Providing he's not too intransigent, too stubborn, or too stupid.
Well, I don't think he is.
Well, wait and see. Go ahead, please.
Yes, I've been enjoying your programs. We're trying to piece it together. it's difficult to understand. I'm wondering, did the union, the building trade unions not know that this was a non-union job before they started? I have another question or two.
Yes. The building trades position was that the first phase of Penny Farthing's construction in Harbour Cove had been union complete with non-affiliation clauses. That was finished. Their claim, rejected by the board, that phase 2 and 3 were automatically union jobs. They've been ruled totally out of the ballpark in that. Phase 2 and 3 of Harbour Cove is non-union, legally and properly given to Kirchhoff, even if you hate the guy. Even if he is a guy who wants to go real big and get after the big union contracts. So it's a legal and proper job.
So why did they wait till now?
Well, they've been doing it for 2 weeks.
No, but before the foundations were down. The stories going around, Jack, are that they started construction, were fired, and brought in non-union.
That is not correct.
Right, that's what I'd like
The first phase, including the footings of phase 2 and 3, were done on a union contract. That contract came to an end. And the Labour Board has ruled that phase 2 and 3 from the footings up is properly allocated to non-union. If anybody says that it's a lockout anymore, they are full of wet cement.
Well, they're certainly telling those stories amongst the union members, and they don't like it.
It's not accurate, and my only interest this morning is in accuracy. But what I fear most of all is that Cuby, who crumbled during the Solidarity strike, has suddenly seized on the building trades, and I say a little wickedly, that this is to help to recapture his image as a man of decision. But for Cuby to recapture his image at the expense of the economy of British Columbia is too much for me to sit and accept. Okay, ma'am. Did you say a break? I'd say a break. Here a break, there a break. Now again a break. A police spokesman told who? Are you there, Mark?
Yes, I'm here, Jack.
Just a minute. Something funny. New phone system this morning. Take a day or two to get it settled up. Okay. First of all, let me tell you, Kirchhoff has said this morning that he doesn't plan to move his men or his equipment on the site today. That's obviously a smart move. He must make quite sure that the Labour Board order is being obeyed before he brings his stuff onto the site. Now, Mark Schneider, have you recently spoken to Roy Gautier of the Building Trades Council?
Jack, Roy Gautier, the president of the Building Trades Council, came out of the council meeting about 4 minutes ago and told me that the council has made a decision this morning on whether to keep people there. The odd thing is he won't tell me what that decision is. You can sense the guy is walking on thin ice right now, perhaps skating around a contempt charge.
You're telling me that he came out of the strategy meeting and he said, we have made the decision, but we ain't going to tell you what the decision is, whether we're going to keep the people there or order them to disperse under the cease and desist order of the LRB. Is that right?
Jack, that's what he told me. He said there will be statements over the next 2 days which will underscore unfolding action. Now, I'm not sure what that means. I asked him point blank whether he would counsel his members down there to stay, and he said it's up to them. He says they've got the freedom of association. If they want to stay, they'll stay. And I said, well, what about the 12 pickets per gate? And he says, well, look around you, man. You can see there's more than that right now.
So he's on both sides of the fence at the moment.
Well, it's obvious, I think, he's got some legal advice that he can't actually outright counsel breaking the law.
Let's not. Just a minute, stay off that. Stay off that, Mark. All you got from him this morning was that they had a strategy meeting. You spoke to him after 10 o'clock. He said they've made a decision. He's not going to tell you what it is. Are any of the 700 or 800 or 1,000 people there now leaving the site?
Jack, I'd say it's just the opposite. Cars are still lining up. People are still getting out of cars. If anything, the crowd is swelling at this moment.
Well, nothing could happen anyway until the thing is filed with the LRB and decisions taken by the board and or the courts. Okay, Mark, just you stay there. No, go away and phone me if anything happens.
Okay.
Right. Go ahead, please.
Good morning, Mr. Webster.
Morning.
I'd just like to say that I think the Building Trades Council is dead wrong on this issue. I think they're all of a sudden the dawn of the idea is finally hitting them, and also I think that the people who are down there picketing right now are really being manipulated by the union leadership.
Well, some of them are being manipulated. Some of them are going along because there's no danger of any police action this morning.
Oh, do you really think that fear of police action is what what's keeping them there? Or?
I think, no. When there is obviously going to be police action after an order, I'm quite confident, hopefully, that the crowds will thin and should disappear.
Okay.
Because the situation is clear-cut. And I mean,
so.
no matter whether you're a member of the Building Trades Council and afraid of the fact that you've been pricing yourselves out of the job with CLRA for years, there's one thing which a government cannot lose. It's like Solidarity can't take over the government. Solidarity can't take over Bennett's job. The hope is that Bennett will become involved and use caution, tact, and restraint.
But the Building Trades Council doesn't seem to understand.
The Building
Trades don't have a chance of getting this job back, period.
Well, the Building Trades Council understands that very well. What they're going to try and do now is change it propaganda-wise with the use of QB et al. Into a great, massive Bill Bennett plot to smash every single union in British Columbia, which even I can say, and you know how I feel about many of Bennett and his cabinet ministers, is nonsense.
Yeah,
Bennett
I think so too.
Bennett wants to move slightly to the right. Bennett does not want right-to-work laws. Bennett wouldn't dare try to smash the unions. That's just stupid. And he's not that daft.
I agree.
But here we're liable to because of media coverage and everything else.
But if the unions take this to task, okay, now obviously they're willing to, how's it going to come out?
Well, first of all, the law must be obeyed on that site.
That's what I think.
I mean, that's the first thing that must be done. And I've suggested a compromise, a good compromise, which Gautier should, if we're offered, accept that Expo be a single site.
Yeah, but these guys charge over $20 an hour. You know, they can non-union guys could come on there, myself, unemployed, and work for $12 an hour.
You can't expect to dismantle hard-fought, even if they are feather-bedded gains, by Building Trades Council in good times.
But why doesn't Building Trades Council retract a bit? You know, there was a guy down there last week or the week before with a cardboard box placard, and he told those guys straight up, you should just take a slight compromise, a little rollback in your wages.
That's stupid, unsophisticated, and almost on the verge of being slightly demented in the climate in British Columbia. Where am I? Take a break? You got to keep it cool. That's what you got to keep. I anticipate it'll probably back off considerably once Mr. Gautier realizes all the implications involved in these actions, and I hope QB just stays out of it. Where are we? I wish they'd settle the pulp thing. That's what I wish they'd settle. And don't forget, the employers, I've come to the conclusion, are to blame for that one. They should have dropped all their concessions. IWA, no concession deal. Pulp, same money, but concession demanded. And just while we're on the subject, the Building Trades Council and the Construction Labour Relations are not negotiating at all right now. You know, not at all. Their contract's up. Go ahead, please.
Hello, Jack.
Yeah. Yeah.
How much does Kirchhoff pay his tradesmen? Do you know?
From 10 to 17 bucks, 18 bucks, depending on the skills and whatnot and the productivity, I should imagine.
Well, what's the matter with that?
Nothing the matter with it. If you want to work for him, you're fully entitled to work for him.
I don't understand it. Like, the unions say that, they're implying that if you're not in a union, you have no right to work.
That is the most dangerous thing about Gautier's position, that nobody who is non-union is entitled to work in the province of British Columbia on construction, and that's not right.
I was on a construction site working, and it was a union site, and a business agent from one of the unions came in and asked me if I was in the union, And I said I wasn't. I was part of management. And he stood right there and he said to me, "You have no right to work."
Well, that's nonsense. Did you slap him in the face?
Well, he was going to pull his guys off the job. And I said, "Now," I said, "Mister, I haven't got an idiot like you that is telling me to get off the job. I have every right in the world to work here."
You were management.
Yes.
Well, you're perfectly entitled to be non-union management.
I mean, I'd be entitled, I don't have to be in a union, and neither does anybody else, and I just don't understand it.
Well,
the building trade's a closed shop, all of it?
Building trades is a closed shop, generally hiring hall, and it will not work with any CIO union. It will not allow the IWA to come on the job.
No, I know.
But the IWA beat them into the ground at Duke Point,
Yes.
where the IWA, they had a picket line up for some time, and the IWA built that sawmill, and they won the battle.
Yes, I know. I was part of that.
Okay, a call from Whistler. I forget about Whistler. Is Whistler a single site? Hey, where are you?
Here.
Speak up then.
Hello.
Yes, that's you.
Yeah, okay. Worcester's an open site, I think it's been declared now. But my point would be the closed site. I mean, that's discrimination.
Total discrimination.
Yeah. I mean, because they can set their own prices, and that causes escalation, which causes inflation. Now, an open site is democratic. And that's the way it should be.
Agreed.
The union can prove they can do a better job, which in the long run they would work out. And the union wants to finance it, they're not going to get the job anyway. They don't have to have all this fights and everything.
I agree. The question of quality is undoubtedly superior in a fully unionized site as of this moment, as of the stage of non-union construction. Up to now, it's only been houses and apartment blocks, generally speaking, that have been done non-union, often by union guys laid off because there's no work in the summer.
Yeah.
But I agree with you. There's nothing illegal about being non-union. It's perfectly right. I'm only suggesting the closed site on Expo as a compromise to get this thing settled so the Expo will open. Because if we run into a storm of tumult over union disputes, Expo 86 might not be ready, to the embarrassment not only of BC and D and me, but of Canada.
Yeah, but if it's a closed site, then they can hold us all up to ransom.
Agreed, but they could make a deal on a closed site for Expo. That might be the only way out, unless Bennett is prepared to tackle the unions head on, which I doubt, because that would mean there wouldn't be any Expo 86.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful for your call. Full report, noon news, 6 o'clock, etc., etc. I'll be back after the break. Well, we'll be keeping a close eye all week on the penny farthing site. We'll try and keep it to minimum coverage so you don't get sick and tired of it. But it's so important. And I ain't whistling Dixie when I tell you that. Tomorrow we're doing a bit of a special on the cost of drunk driving. And we've all got to do our bit in that, and this will be a good one. Tomorrow at 9 a.m. Precisely. The Tories attack the taxman on Check at midnight.